Did you know that Steven Spielberg's Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull was inspired by a book? And this book was based on a story told by a real man living in the Amazonian jungle that killed at least 3 people. Let's talk about it. It was 1972 when Karl Brugger, a correspondent and journalist of a German TV station, met a man in the German embassy in Rio de Janeiro. The man he met called himself Tatunka Nara. He claimed to be the chief of an Amazonian tribe and was there to ask for weapons to defend his people. Karl immediately thought something weird was going on with the other man. While he claimed to be the chief of a native tribe, he was clearly just a well-tanned European that also spoke accent-free German. Nonetheless, the two got talking, and Tatunka started telling him the strangest story. He claimed to be the descendant of an abducted German nun. His tribe he called Uga Mongolala. Tatunka told him that the tribe was the result of aliens from the planet Swerta coming to Earth and mating with the locals. And it was now up to them to protect the gold, jewels, and other gifts these aliens gave them. In fact, they had so many riches that they needed to hide from any kind of civilization. But the story got even wilder. He claimed that he was the head of over 300 million people that had been hiding in a city called Akakor for over 1,000 years. They managed to stay undetected because they lived underground, between 2 mountains that were split between Brazil and Venezuela. Mile-long tunnels even connected them to another secret city called Akahim. But the Uga Mongolala weren't the only people living there. They also housed over 2,000 Nazi criminals and their descendants that fled after the war ended. Now, for whatever reason, Karl believed him, at least about the secret city, and he, unfortunately, wouldn't be the only one. Of course, he wanted to see it himself, and Tatunka agreed to take him. But on the way there, their boat capsized on the Amazonian River, and neither Karl nor Tatunka had money for another one. Karl never saw the city, or the tribe, but the story didn't leave him. After he returned to Germany, he decided to write a book, using what the other men had told him. The book was called The Chronicles of Akakor. It became a bestseller. Unfortunately, this led many people to try and find this mysterious town, its people, and its chief, Tatunka. One of those people was the American, John Reed. He was an explorer at heart. After he read the book, he flew to Brazil in 1980, where he found Tatunka. The 2 men traveled through the jungle for a while, and all seemed well. John even wrote letters home. One of those said the following: "Dear family, I believe in Tatunka's honesty and his good intentions. He's my friend. I will probably be back by spring. I'm safe." But he wasn't, and he disappeared shortly after. Of course, Tatunka was questioned, but he had an explanation for why the man he was traveling with was suddenly gone. He claimed they had decided to split up, and John traveled on alone, and that he had probably encountered cannibals in the jungle that ate him. That's just how it was in the Amazon, according to Tatunka. In 1983, Tatunka took another man into the jungle. Herbert Warner was from Switzerland and had paid Tatunka 15,000 Swiss francs, roughly $20,000, to take him to the secret city. He also never returned. A short while after his disappearance, a Swiss travel group found his shoes next to his skeletized body. There was a gunshot wound in his skull. Tatunka once more claimed ignorance, even though he had a gun that fit the profile of the wound in Herbert's head. After the Swiss passed away, someone even redeemed his traveler checks, and Tatunka suddenly turned up with a brand new boat. But even now, the local authorities didn't properly investigate him, and the rest of the world was still unaware of what was going on in Brazil. And Karl's book was still selling well. Tatunka's next victim was the 37-year-old Christine Heuser. The woman even believed that Tatunka had been her husband in a past life. And the two became a couple, more or less. What Christine didn't know was that Tatunka was married, and he didn't live in a secret town. He lived in the bed and breakfast of his in-laws. The last time anyone saw Christine alive was when locals saw her arguing with Tatunka. Shortly afterwards, she disappeared into the jungle, never to return again. Tatunka again claimed ignorance, and the authorities, once more, did nothing. But by now, his old friend Karl, the journalist, had been contacted by a family member of one of the missing people. He, of course, was shocked by what he heard. He called Tatunka and confronted him, but Tatunka refused to admit anything. So Karl decided to fly to Brazil. After all, if Tatunka really killed those people, their blood was also on his hands. Without his book, no one would have even known about him. But he never made it. He was shot one day before his flight to Brazil. The police believe it was a robbery gone wrong, but nothing had been stolen from him. Rüdiger Nieberg was a famous survival expert, and he had met Tatunka years before Karl had made contact with him in the embassy. Rüdiger was clearly the only person with some sense, because he didn't believe the crazy stories Tatunka was telling. And not only that, after their first talk, he even went digging into Tatunka's past and found out his real identity. After he heard about what Tatunka had been up to, he decided to write his own book, to refute the story from the first book, and in it, he also talked about the missing people. Now, this might sound strange, but the authorities in Brazil didn't do anything, and he knew if he directly confronted him, it wouldn't end well. So he decided the book was the best course of action, at the very least to also warn people away from going there. But after it was published, authorities from Germany, Switzerland, and the US finally started looking into Tatunka and the missing adventurers. For them, it was obvious that he had killed the 3 people. But not only that, they also believed he had his hands in the death of Karl. The BKA in Germany believed he somehow hired a hitman on his old friend. Unfortunately though, there was nothing they could do. Brazil refused to extradite Tatunka, and they also refused to look into the missing people. So Rüdiger traveled to Brazil himself to confront Tatunka. He even took the filmmaker Wolfgang Berg with him. He decided to beat Tatunka with his own weapons and lied to him. He contacted him under a false name and claimed they wanted to film a documentary about him and his secret town. Tatunka believed him, and he met up with the 2 men. And then Rüdiger confronted him with the truth. Tatunka's real name was Hansi Haug. He was a bricklayer, born and raised in Nuremberg. In the 1960s, he up and abandoned his wife and children in Germany and went to Brazil to start a new life. But Hansi didn't react. He stuck to his story and claimed ignorance about what Rüdiger had found. Till today, he's a free man and is hunting the Amazon jungle. Even the locals are afraid of him. No one knows why he had spun this elaborate web of lies. And no one knows how many people he actually took into the jungle, only for them to never return.